Hello everyone, welcome to NintenDormant, the podcast where we discuss Nintendo games that have been left on the shelf. I'm your host George Banks, and joining me this week, something magical has happened. An undergarment of mine has come to life. We are joined by a talking sock. A talking sock, hello.
Hello. By the by, it's a talking sock, as it were.
It's a specifically
That's my first initial.
Sock. I see. Well, I was going to ask, is there sort of a more familiar moniker that I can refer? Do Mr. Sock? Sock.
By all means, I go by my last name, Sock. The A stands for Sock. Arlo, so as you can imagine, it's a little bit of a faux pas there.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, Sock. Well, joining Sock, we have somebody who has sometimes been described as the chatty hat of YouTube. It's John Cartwright, everybody. John, hello.
Hello, I feel so underqualified. I'm not a sock, I'm not a glove, I'm not even a hat.
Well,
you said I was a hat. I'm not a hat. I've never been one.
Well, I think you could be described as a chatty hat, John. I think that would be a fair description of you.
There's no coming back from this, though. I just feel like, how can I possibly compete with a sock?
Well, we'll see as the episode rolls on. Thank you both very much for being here today, discussing an absolute classic NES game. But before we get into that, I feel quite interested in the start of today because I feel like we have sort of three eras of YouTube. We have John, who is I would think we'd describe as a grizzled veteran of YouTube at this point. And then Sock, who's been doing it for about 5 years. And then me, who's been doing it for about 5 minutes. So I just want to know, how have you guys sort of found your time on YouTube? Sock, how have you found your sort of first 5 years making videos?
Oh, they've been just splendid. I started in 2020 with COVID because I just sort of... I'm a performing arts guy, I'm a theater guy, and I'm also a big Nintendo hobbyist with no, real-life friends who I can talk about it with. And I just figured, hey, if we're going to be boarded up for 2 weeks, might as well try it once. And then it turned into longer, and now I've stuck with it because people seem to like it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it sounded like you were describing me at the start there, which is a bit scary. But no, I'm glad you got going. I've been enjoying your videos. And John, how, you must be 10 years plus on the block at this point.
I guess so, yeah. I would have started around... I've been doing it since I was a teenager, but I started as a career around 2016.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, about 9 years.
Well, the big 1-0 coming up. What are you going to do to celebrate?
I'm going to get a microphone. I'm going to talk about some video games.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's very fun talking games. I think as you get a bit older, you have less of an opportunity to do that. So, I'm really glad that people come on here to talk to me about games. I'm really glad that people listen. We hit 100 subscribers this morning, which is very lovely.
Hey.
So... yeah, if people are all happy, then I guess we'll just talk about some more games right now. Yes, it's time for the NintenDormant Quickfire quiz. 2 rounds, fastest finger first, followed by play or pass for double points. And as always, we let our guests choose their buzzers. So, Sock, is there a buzzer that you would like to pick today?
Now, I know, I've seen a couple episodes at this point, and I know... you tend to think that we'll pick thematically appropriate ones to tie into the game we talk about. But
are you gonna do me that favor?
Sorry, I'd actually, if you can look up a Quaca drum, I believe it's spelled Cuica. You might recognize it from Goron City and from Ocarina of Time, or the Victory theme from Super Mario Sunshine. It's the drum that sounds like oh 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 oh. That one.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know that one.
I know. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about, which is weird. Yes, I will source that drum for you.
Thank you.
It's quite a nice buzzer sound too. So thank you. That's a good one. John, what are you going to pick for me today?
Can I have? This might be hard to source on YouTube.
John. Okay,
Can I have the sound of a sock hitting water, just like that kind of sound?
Yes, I mean I have all this stuff. I wish I'd gotten a picture of this, but for the episode that we put out last week, which was Punch Out, I tried. It didn't work. I tried sitting next to my Wii with a microphone to get the disc going in for you. and I gave up and just had to find it somewhere else. But
The one that you found sounded pretty good.
okay, I'm good. I'm glad because I'm just envisaging an evening of sitting gingerly by the bathtub with some wet socks.
Your wife's going to say, "What are you doing?" and you just can't explain.
And I'm just going to say YouTube.
It's for YouTube.
It is. Right, well, with our buzzers picked, let's move on to the questions then. So, fingers on buzzers. Question 1. Urban Champion is a one-on-one side-scrolling brawler, but what do you knock your opponent into after pushing them back 2 screens? Ooh, it's sock.
That would be a manhole.
It's a manhole, yes, and I do love the little slip down into the manhole that you have there. It's quite a satisfying conclusion to the fight, I think.
I live in great fear about what the other questions are going to be because there isn't that much more to Urban Champion.
Spoilers, John. Come on. I've managed to churn out 9 questions, so
9?
I mean, they don't get much more difficult than that, but we'll see how it goes. So, question 2. During a scuffle, residents will sometimes pop their head out of a window to have a little look, but what do they sometimes throw at you? Oh, it's John. Just.
Plant pots / vases, right?
Yes, I think it's a plant pot. Yeah.
Yep.
I quite like the little plant pot. Have you ever been hit by one when you're playing the game?
Yeah, I've been hit by one.
Yeah,
I think it was a clear condition in NES Remix, right?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
And that's good to know. And you've also possibly given away another answer, but that's fine. There's not many questions. Yes, a little plant pot gets chucked out the window, which breaks up the fighting a little bit. I think it's a nice little touch. Question 3. Every so often in Urban Champion, a fight will be interrupted, but what makes the fighters retreat? Oh, I didn't even finish the question. John's in there. Go on, what makes the fighters retreat back to their original position?
It's the fuzz.
It's the fuzz. The cops. I was about to say the filth, but I feel a bit bad saying that.
I thought you were going to say
I was
pigs.
wondering where that was going.
Yeah. They do their best. I mean, yeah, I don't think we can get into a debate about the pros and cons of the police force here, but yes, I think that's one of my favourite things that happens in Urban Champion.
Adds a lot of character to it.
Yeah, police car comes. So anybody who hasn't played the game, a little police car just goes up. You hear the little whoa, 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 and it comes along, and both fighters just retreat back to their corners and then do like a little whistle, look left to right.
There
very
should be an Urban Champion stage in Smash Bros. Where if the police show up, every fighter just automatically walks to corners of the stage.
That would actually be really good.
really
and the manhole would be
good.
great too. Why hasn't this been done? Nintendo love Urban Champion.
I know. We're going to get into it later, but he was touted for Smash apparently as well, but Ice Climbers were picked over him. I mean, you got to love the Ice Climbers in Smash, but we'll get into that. That is 2 points for John, 1 point for Sock.
I'm going to get you.
It's on. He's going to catch up. Right, resetting those buzzers. Question 4. Yep, I know what I've written down. I can read it. Okay, question 4. The fights in Urban Champion are timed, but what happens when the time runs out? Ooh. Sock. He's in there.
The fuzz, the previously mentioned fuzz, come and they arrest the character who's losing.
Correct. Yes, the Afuz mentioned fuzz come along. And if you're closest to your corner, they don't even come out of the car, though. This is the thing I find hilarious. They just kind of open the door and the fighter goes, oh, and kind of just waddles down towards the car.
They're law-abiding to a fault. Like they're like, you caught me fair and square.
Yeah.
Is it morally acceptable to arrest the one who's been damaged the most? It feels like you should be arresting the abuser, right?
Yeah, I know. I find this very strange as well. But I think it would be weird if they punished you for doing a good job.
What, in a street fight?
Yeah, just like, you nearly got the opponent, but you didn't quite, but you're clearly the aggressor. I think it would be maybe a touch too cerebral for a side-scroll beat 'em up.
Maybe.
So, this is to take round 1. Fingers on buzzers, please. In Urban Champion, you take on the role of an unnamed fighter, but what colour is the fighter's hair? Sock.
A deep blue.
It is specifically a deep blue. Yes.
Because both the fighters wear a light blue shirt.
Correct. Man, is this like deep urban champion knowledge, or have you been just playing it in anticipation for today?
I may have opened it up once or twice in anticipation of this episode, yes. I may or may not have also taken a peek at the manual and went to Moby Games, like, who worked on this thing? And they're like, we don't know, but we're pretty sure these 4 guys.
I'm really sorry. The questions aren't going to get that deep. So apologies. But John, did you know about old blue hair?
You know, if you put me on the spot, I think I would have said that they're blonde. I don't think I knew that answer.
Well, they are blonde on a specific variant of the manual.
Yes.
Which, Sock, you can probably tell us all about, right? Is that the Verse arcade one?
Yeah, that's where I knew it.
I actually don't know. It was the NES manual I looked at, so not that one. But I'm pretty sure the spirit in Smash Ultimate is that particular artwork with the blonde hair.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
The era where it's just confusing art flying all over the place. So, after Fastest Finger First, Sock has 3 points, John has 2 points. So, as we move into play or pass for double points, Sock will go first. Now, if you don't know the answer, Sock, you may pass your question over to John. He can scoop up those 2 points. But if he doesn't know it, you do get a point yourself. So, if we're ready, question 1. Urban Champion sees you fighting in front of a staggering 4 locations. This includes a snack bar, a bookstore, a barbershop, and what? Is it A, a restaurant, B, a laundrette, or C, a discount shop?
I believe it's the discount shop.
It's the discount shop. Very nice. Yes.
I thought that was right.
Very generically named discount shop. I thought it sounds so generic that you might think, no, it definitely can't be that. I mean, any strong feelings about the locations in the game?
All classics.
All classics.
All of them. Yeah.
I love the idea of these like blocks in American cities of just, a snack bar, a bookstore, a barbershop, and a discount shop just on loop. As far as I can see.
In life.
Yeah.
That's all you need. What else do you want?
Bookstore in particular is a weird choice for the setting. Like, I don't know, maybe they were more common in the 80s, but I love a bookstore, but they feel a little less urban than that,
Yeah, I wonder who picked them. Anyway, right, John, your question. Throwing punches and being hit in the game depletes your stamina, but how many points of stamina do you start off each round with? Is it A, 150 points, B, 200 points, or C, 250 points?
I want to say I don't actually know, so I'm going to guess.
You're going to guess? You're going to pass or you're going to guess?
I'm going to guess.
Right.
I'm going to go low with 150.
It's not
no,
right,
I misspoke.
No,
I meant 200.
It is 200. I'm sorry. Sock gets the point. Sock, did you know this?
I actually didn't. I just knew that you said this, and I thought in my head, I'm pretty sure I saw the number 180 at some point. So probably in that area.
Fair.
I did not know.
Logic that out. Yeah, it's I mean, with many things in this game, it seems a sort of weird, arbitrary choice. It's to start off at 200. But I do like there's a mechanic in the game. Again, we'll get more into it. But I actually quite like that throwing punches depletes your stamina. I think that's quite an interesting choice. I think throwing a hard punch maybe depletes 5, and getting a hard punch like deletes 9. Very good. We'll get into that. But it is 6 points to 2. So, Sock, you could wrap up the quiz with this question if you know the answer.
Oh boy.
However, it's not multiple choice. This is just if you know it or not. So, question 3. Can you name every Nintendo-developed personal console that Urban Champion is playable on?
I can try. There's 5 in total?
You've got this. There's 5
I get
in total.
that much? Okay. So, and you said personal console, not counting the arcade cabinet.
I'm not counting the arcade units, personal consoles. You can pass to John if you're not sure.
I think I got this. So there's the NES. It's on the Wii Virtual Console, that much is for sure. It's on the Wii U Virtual Console. It's on the Nintendo Switch with NSO. So there's one other console that Urban Champion is playable on. Did it get a Mm, uh, I'm pretty sure it's not Game Boy. I'm pretty sure it's
Okay.
not, but I could be wrong. Did it get a classics cartridge for Game Boy Advance?
I couldn't
Oh wait,
possibly
no, no,
tell
no,
you.
I'm stupid. 3DS. 3DS.
Ah, John was rubbing his hands with glee there. Yes.
I have a follow-up question.
Oh,
In
go on.
Animal Crossing, was Urban Champion one of the games?
Yeah, see, I couldn't find that, so I was googling answers for the quiz, and I suddenly thought maybe it was in Smash Brothers, but then I was like, oh no, I'm remembering it wrong. It's Animal Crossing. You can play some old games, isn't it? And which version of Animal Crossing is that?
The GameCube one.
It's the GameCube one.
I don't
think
know
so.
for sure if Urban Champion's in there, but if it is, then technically.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
they
think
technically on GameCube, huh?
Urban Champion being available in a cutesy game like Animal Crossing might not be the fit they're looking for to sort of unlock a slugfest. And I'm thinking more like full version of the game, full playable version. So yes, correct. Yes, NES, Wii, Wii U, 3DS, and Switch all saw a full release of Urban Champion, with the 3DS having a 3D classics interpretation.
Yes,
which we'll
of
talk more
course.
about.
How could I forget?
I mean, looks incredible.
It does.
Still the same game. We'll talk more about that when we get into the game. But yes, five versions. It's had so many releases. It's insane. So that brings Sock up to 8 points. Now, John. Yes, I mean, well done. But John, we can still get
Thank you.
a very respectable 4 points if you know the answer to this one. Are you ready?
We'll see.
There are 2 other Nintendo series where Urban Champion has been playable in some form. Can you name those 2 series? And possibly 3 with Animal Crossing. But can you name the 2 other ones?
If you didn't know.
So, NES Remix,
Yes.
Urban Champion has been playable in.
Yeah.
It wasn't in Nintendo World Champions.
It was not.
No. Super Smash Brothers as a masterpiece.
Yeah.
No, we just said no to that, didn't we?
I don't think it's there. I will
We
double
just said
check
it wasn't.
that.
We just said
Yeah.
it wasn't. I don't think I do know. Oh, maybe the Amiibo thing from Wii U where you scan the Amiibo in and get a demo. Was it playable in that?
Amiibo Tap, Nintendo's greatest bits.
I mean, this is the closest I could get to an Urban Champion amiibo. I've just got little me brawler on my shelf here because there's nothing else. No,
I don't think I know.
Sock, do you know?
I do not, and I'm
I
very
can give you
curious
guys-
to hear what the answer is.
It's a series where often you'll have fragments of a game in it.
Oh,
WarioWare.
Wario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You know, it's basically like punch him into the sewer. Bang. That's
Right.
essentially all it is. I think across a few of them as well.
WarioWare basically summed up the entire game in that micro.
Yes. That could have just been the game. So, John, I'm afraid no points for you there, and Sock, no points for you either. But you are the winner of this week's quiz with 8 points to 2. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm glad I didn't lose because I don't have the hands to clap graciously in defeat.
Can you? I mean,
Smack your mouth.
Yeah, what is the sound of one hand clapping? We'll find out right now, perhaps. So yes, congratulations, you've won the quiz, which means you will be going first as we move into the main event. So yes, the game we are talking about today is, of course, Urban Champion for the NES, that well-known Nintendo beloved series. A quick history lesson for those who don't know. Urban Champion is an early Nintendo game released for the Famicom and Japanese arcades in 1984, before heading west to the States in arcades in 85 and the NES in 86 across all regions. A very early example of a side-scrolling beat-em-up, players take on one-on-one fights and attempt to push enemies back across 3 screens before knocking them into a manhole and taking on the next challenge, and completing 45 rounds of this will see you crowned champion. With this one core loop and limited attacking options of 4 punches, the game is often derided as one of Nintendo's worst of the NES era, but in spite of this, it has gained something of a cult following, was considered for inclusion in Smash Brothers, and a 3D Classics version was released for the 3DS in 2011, developed by Eureka. I want to say Eureka. Is that
I think Eureka.
Yep.
Eureka?
Yeah.
And yes, and as we mentioned, been playable across 5 Nintendo personal consoles. So, guys, what's your experience with the game? Sock, you mentioned you've opened up NSO to give it a go. Had you ever played it before, or is it something that's new to you?
I'd played it before. I think the first time I played it in earnest, like I knew of it because of its, Nintendo connection and Smash Bros. Representation. But it was NES Remix where I first actually played the game. And I didn't know anything about the whole throwing a punch eats stamina thing. I was just like, okay, you can punch, you can punch low, you can punch high. Huh. This isn't much of a game. I can see why it's got its sort of sore reputation.
Yeah, and I mean, like it's so easy to tell where your enemy's block is as well. So you kind of just stand there and just go, okay, bang, bang, bang. How about you, John? Is it something you'd sort of, I say indulged in, I use the term very loosely. Is it something you'd enjoyed before this?
Yeah, this kind of changed the trajectory of my life, I'd say.
Good.
Before Urban Champion, I didn't know what I wanted to be in life.
You weren't street tough. Game. Yeah.
Exactly. And I played it, and everyone in the streets, they cower in fear. And, like, if there's a queue in a bakery, and I want a donut, and there's only one left, I just flex a little bit, and everyone moves out the way.
Do you punch high or punch low in these instances?
I tend to punch high, so there's a chance for them to duck, because if you punch low, then you're going to hit them.
Well,
I don't want to hit anybody. I just want to intimidate them.
Oh, good. I have this mental image of you walking along the streets of the UK, just pushing people into manholes and punching donuts out of people's mouths.
I don't remember my first time playing Urban Champion. I remember being a bit baffled, though, when it was selected as part of the 3D Classics, because it was like, it was Kid Icarus, it was Excite Bike, it was Kirby's Adventure, and then Urban Champion. And you're like, what are you doing here, Urban Champion? And so, of course, I was curious. I gave it a go, tried to play it in earnest. And I don't think it's, like, bad, but it's just, the entire game is what you see. There isn't much more to it. Yeah,
it's a very simple loop, isn't it? I mean, so my first experience was actually the 3DS version. I thought, I just wanted to get all the games in that collection. And it is, for anybody that's not played it. So the game itself on the NES, very flat 2D game. You're literally just moving left and right. It's kind of like a sumo fight, right? You're essentially trying to push the other person. It's not about knocking the other person out like Street Fighter or something. You're trying to push them back across screens and eventually down a hole. And the 3D version is the same core loop, but it looks beautiful on the 3DS. And they've done this thing where they kind of shift the perspective by 45 degrees, so you can sort of see through the buildings and stuff. I mean, it as a sort of attempt to move it into 3D, it really does look quite striking when you're playing the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the game itself is quite basic. I mean, would you describe it as a side-scroll and beat 'em up, or do you think it is just a fighter?
It's hard to really put it in any category. I guess it's not really a fighter, but it's also not really a beat 'em up. It's more of just trying to push someone into a. it's a push 'em up. That's what
push 'em up. Yeah,
it's a push 'em up.
The rare known push 'em up.
I would say it's closer to a fighter than it is to a beat 'em up, just because you've got one opponent and your goal is to win the fight with them. Whereas I think a beat 'em up, you more so associate it with, I've got somewhere to go and I've got a lot of people to beat up so that I can get there, I think like Kung Fu, Irem's Kung Fu on NES is closer in spirit to to the old analog to what would become the beat 'em up. And if anything, Urban Champion should have been called Street Fighter. You literally fight on a street, whereas Street Fighter is like you traverse the world and you fight electric green Hulkmen.
Yeah. So slight sidebar here, but my nickname as a baby was Blanca because I was born with blonde hair about this tall off my head, and I just screamed a lot, basically. So yeah, baby Blanca is me. It's funny because I think I would probably categorize it as a very early, very primitive side-scrolling beat 'em up, because you've got the classic go now when you've got beat 'em ups, but you are trying to. It's not about knocking out the opponent, because it is about trying to progress through the streets and knock them out that way. For me, it has more that kind of DNA, and I think in some respects, it isn't the first fighting game or the first side-scrolling beat 'em up, but I think it's the first one that's kind of trying to maybe achieve something like that, And I think in terms of the aesthetic for the game, it's also something I associate because Streets of Rage, you've got set in the streets and a similar kind of vibe. I suppose I kind of equate it with that. But what do you think of its setting, Sock? Do you like the aesthetic of the game?
I actually really do quite like the aesthetic of the game. I'm very fond of Nintendo's first IP, the sort of ones where they came up with the characters and the setting and the items and the mechanics to maximize what they were able to do with the NES. And I think that Urban Champion and Ice Climber and Balloon Fight are all sort of spiritually belong to this family, where you can imagine an alternate timeline where they could have kept getting iterated on the way Mario and Zelda and Metroid did, but they just kind of didn't. Kid Icarus Uprising is really cool for like a peek into the possibilities of attempting to see what a series from those days could look like if we just picked up the pieces now and tried to like suss out where it would have gone if it had kept getting gradually updated like that. But yeah, I really like the look of the sprites in Urban Champion. I like all the little details, like the falling into the manhole, or the police showing up, or the flower pot. It's got a lot of character. It's very charming.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's that sort of Nintendo charm. And I know what you mean about that sort of peek behind the curtain with Kid Icarus. I must admit, Balloon Fight is coming up, and I've got no idea what you would do with that. But in terms of what I don't know.
You got to put me in, Coach. I have literally. I'm not even joking. I have literally game by game imagined a timeline where Balloon Fight was a once per console kind of series. And not only that, I've imagined like what this alternate timeline means. Like in the Balloon Fight is a Mario tier franchise universe. Pilot Wings doesn't exist. It's like that deep.
Oh my god. This is getting so deep. Okay, I promise you will come back for Balloon Fight. Thank you. Yes, please. But okay, let's imagine for a second then, just as a tangent. So let's imagine Sakurai had picked let's call him Urban Champion over the Smash Brothers. What would his moveset be? I'm gonna split this up. We've got. He's got to just punch, right? But let's do the B separately. So, Sock, what's the down B for Urban Champion?
The down B for Urban Champion. That's a good question. Maybe falling into a manhole, like inadvertently.
I was thinking
the same thing.
Yeah,
it's got to be manhole. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna jot this down. We've got down and B, manhole. John. What's the side B?
Side B is going to be hopping into a police car.
I was thinking the same thing.
And I've got a. I don't know if I should say it.
Go on, you can do it.
I don't know if I should.
You can do it.
There's a way that this can deal more damage, and no, I shouldn't say it.
Are you gonna deride the police yet again, John? Come on.
Use your imagination.
Okay, we'll talk after the recording. Side B, we've got a police car ramp. Very nice. Okay, Sock. How about his up B?
His recovery. I think for his recovery, you get into some liberties being taken. You get one of the neighbors in the windows who throws the confetti, lifts you up.
Yes.
But in like I don't know, they're in a helicopter or something. No. Balloons.
Oh yes.
Just swoops in.
Brother in arms.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe you could have what's it called? Like a meteor one where he throws the pot down or like throws the confetti and then like shoots up but then pushes other people down.
Yeah.
Also, how embarrassing would it be to die amidst a shower of confetti from Urban Champion? would be quite a nice brag. Okay, and then so John, what's the standard B?
Oh, no, we're out of moves here. Okay. Oh, we're going to utilize the bookstore. Iconic location. He's
Okay,
just
yep.
he's just going to smack you with a book. Just
Brilliant. But the book that never gets seen in the game. Okay, lovely.
He throws the book at you. He was an undercover
bookstore.
cop all along.
exactly.
Very good. Right, so we have got B. So standard B is just hitting somebody with a book. Up B is a neighbour rescue you, or balloon fight, or throwing something like confetti. Down B, we've got creates a manhole, and side B, ramming with a police car. Guys, I think that is top level Smash creation. Or unless B could be whistling, and it's like a stun, like you get other characters to whistle next to you, and they just stood there whistling, and then you can go smack.
I can imagine that being like Luigi's taunt, like where he kicks the ground.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, guys. That was a fun little aside. Yes. So I think it is interesting to imagine a world where he had carried on and become. Hang on, wait. Why am I talking about this? We're about to get into this. Right. Let's get into it. So, Sock, you won the quiz, which means you are the new president of Nintendo. But we are the board, and we demand, for some reason, that you bring back Urban Champion and that you make it a success. So please tell us, how do you do it?
All right. Imagine this. It's a Nintendo Direct. It's sort of one of those transitions where there's no lead up, there's no commentary, just the red arrows, shooing, and it's a black screen. We fade up on a game of Urban Champion being played. The opponent character, the green-haired one, punches the player character, the blue-haired one, into a manhole. We follow that same character falling down. And it's like Alice in Wonderland. Like, the manhole is super long. And as he falls, the graphical style changes. He's no longer an 8-bit sprite. Now he's like a beautifully illustrated pixel art sprite, like in the vein of Metal Slug, with that same aesthetic that the first game had, but with more detail and stuff. He lands at the bottom of the sewer, and it's like grungy, and there are mutants and robots, and they kind of take design influence from those old 80s Nintendo games. So there's like nasty pufferfish monsters that look kind of like Bubbles from Clu Clu Land, or they're like decrepit, derelict robots that look like the ones from Joy Mech Fight. And your character fell into the sewer, right? So they're like in a puddle of green water, like toxic water. They rise up, and you just see they're covered in green goop. The Splatoon story mode type menu comes up. Choose the color of your hair. Choose your facial features. Choose everything.
Nice.
You've mutated. You've become something new. You need to make your way back to the surface to get revenge on the guy who cursed you, who did this to you. It's a beat-em-up. It's an arcade-style beat-em-up.
Yes,
and that's the pitch.
I love that premise.
Lovely. So, a gorgeous pixel art arcade-style beat-em-up. With
so much detail in the story there, though. It's so good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So, are we saying you can fully customize your player?
Pretty
or
much.
Just the hair?
Not fully customize them, and part of the mechanics is you can take upgrades or mutations from the opponents you beat up. So it's got roguelite elements too, where you have different loadouts for different branching paths or different playthroughs.
What's the story then? So it's a side-scroller beat-em-up. Are you sort of making your way from the underground to the surface, or what kind of bosses are we encountering? What's the kind of who are you facing during these fights?
So during the fights, you're sort of. I imagine that the world of Urban Champion is like the world of the Mario Brothers in a way. Like if Mario and Luigi came from Brooklyn, the Urban Champion is from, I don't know, Queens, the Bronx. And yeah, there's sort of, you get through pipes. The game's aesthetic is a little grungier, so it's like very clearly grimy sewer pipes, but maybe there's an occasional level where it's a little bit more fantastical. Maybe one of them is the Mushroom Kingdom, or like the Wario Land part of the Mushroom Kingdom, where things are even kookier and a little bit gross.
There's a lot of detail in the story and aesthetics here. But what about the gameplay itself? Are these encounters, are they playing out like Urban Champion, where you're trying to push them off the screen? Or is it a bit more like a standard beat-em-up, where you're just punching them until they're gone?
That is a good question. I imagine it would be more like... It'd be a little more in line with modern sensibilities, with what beat-em-ups have, you know, what they were in their peak and what they've become in tribute and homage to them in the modern day. In fact, I don't know if it's jumping the gun to say who would be developing this, but I imagine Nintendo would. Yeah, I imagine Nintendo would bring it to one of three possible options: either Way Forward. They've worked with them before, and they did River City Girls, which I feel like would be very similar to this Urban Champion game. They could bring it to Lizard Cube, who did Streets of Rage 4 and are doing the new Shinobi game. Or it could go to Tribute Games, who developed Shredder's Revenge and the new Power Rangers beat 'em up, Rita's Revenge. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna press you for an answer. You're the president, so you have the power. Who are you picking?
I think I'm gonna go with Lizard Cube.
Okay, all right, developed by Lizard Cube, very nice. So more standard beat 'em up fare, and you've mentioned sort of crossover things, you know, the kind of Nintendo Universe, WarioWare and stuff. Are you going to be taking on Nintendo characters?
Yes, yeah. John, you had mentioned earlier, what are the bosses like and all that? Yeah, some of the bosses in Nintendo design philosophy fashion, they will sort of introduce or reinforce like an obstacle or a mechanic you've come across. I imagine some candidates who are prime would be maybe Harry from Tellero Boxer in a sort of mechanical level.
Yep.
I feel like you could get the Rat from Short Order as maybe like the first boss because he's in the sewer.
These are deep cuts.
I love this.
Yeah. And I also think, yeah. Stuffed in that vein, in that fashion.
I feel like it's almost got to be obscure Nintendo characters, right? Because Urban Champion
banished
is
to
obscure.
the underworld.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like there's some sort of Nintendo purgatory. Yeah.
But the big reveal, the final boss, obviously you make it back to the surface. Now you have to play just a regular game of NES Urban Champion, but with your new loadout.
What?
So,
why would you punish the players like that? Come on.
It's a challenge.
Okay, all right, lovely. Well, what is the what is the end game? You know, you've fought through these kind of grimy aesthetic places. You've taken on these obscure, banished Nintendo characters. More sort of classic beat 'em up where you're just sort of depleting, knocking people out. What's the reward? Because you've talked a lot about story, so I'm curious to know where the story goes.
Well, obviously, now that you've made it back to the surface and you're all mutated out, the natural thing to do would be to go to the bookstore and retire as a librarian. You know, there's multiple choices. It's multiple choice. It's depending on your score, like multiple endings.
Nice. Very
good.
You can either run the discount shop, the bookshop, or any of those 4 locations.
The snack bar or what was the other one? There's only 4. How can we not remember the snack bar?
It was the snack bar, the discount shop, the bookstore, and
the barbershop. The barbershop.
And the
barbershop.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, I actually really like that.
It was really well done. I feel like you've thought about this, which isn't going to reflect well on me because I've not thought about this.
Just throw in dating elements. That'll save it.
Yes, yes.
John's classic go-to. Are we seeing any returning, a police car, whistling, the window characters, any of these?
Yes. There will. So, there's the secret police. Like, they're sort of the... You're not allowed...
It's taking a dark turn. Are they like the Goombas from the original Mario movie?
once you've fallen down the sewer and made it to like the mutant area, you're not allowed to come back to the surface. The police are constantly on the hunt for you to prevent you from getting up there. And all the different levels you go to, it's the same uniform and the same car, so you know it's them, but it's the different denizens of all the different worlds connected by the pipes. They exist in the Mario world. You've just never seen them.
You've got to rise up against the police in this game.
That's right. So that you can run the bookstore.
Just peaceful librarian life. Last thing I'm going to ask, just about the roguelike element. So how are you working that in?
So, when you defeat an enemy, some of them, if not all of them, drop like ooze, mutant ooze, sewer slime, or robotic parts. And when you collect them, they get added to your loadout, which gives you different stats and different abilities, different special moves you can pull off. But they can also be taken away if enemies like damage you to enough of a point. So it's your loadouts are different, and you can choose to go down different branching paths to potentially make your loadout the way you want it. Like, I want an upgrade from the candy world, so I'm gonna choose to go back there instead of making progress up to the top, just because I want it to be the best it can be. It's sort of nice. It incentivizes replaying, kind of like Star Fox in that sense.
I really dig it because it feels like this is a very 80s pitch, which is very suitable. John, any final questions for Sock about his envisaged...
I feel like you've fully realised your vision here. Every possible avenue has been considered.
I'm flattered, thank you.
That's pitch number 1. Thank you very much. So, John, we move on to you. You are now the president of Nintendo, but we are still the board, and we still demand that you bring back Urban Champion. So please tell us, how do you do it?
It all goes downhill from here. Okay. So, I'm going to steal the Nintendo Direct direction. So, Nintendo Direct logo. This is the closer of the show. We've just had Zelda. We've just had Metro. We've just had Mario. What could top these? And so, no logo reveal. We just go straight into it.
Okay.
There is a father tucking in his daughter at night.
Oh, God.
She says, "Daddy, why do you never talk about your past?" They're British in this.
They're British, yeah, cool, yep. I was going to say, that's the poshest girl I've ever heard. Daddy.
And he says, "Don't worry, baby girl. Just go to sleep." And then we fade to darkness. Stars are in the sky. And there's a crash sound. And then the father goes outside to see what it is. Bunch of thugs. They say, "Hey, we know what you did. We remember you from 1986. And they all close in on him. And he just starts pushing them off, punching them off the screen. And that's when we get the title reveal. Family Champion. Family Champion is the successor to Urban Champion. We are 30 years in the future, in the year 2016. And in Family Champion, we are going to fix the one thing that Urban Champion lacked, which is a motivation. Why are you punching this guy? Why is he punching you? Why are you trying to escape the police? They are trying to get revenge now on your antics from the 80s. And they know about your family. And to grow your motivation, you'll be spending time with your family. It isn't just about punching the guys on the street. Oh, nice. You are growing a connection with your daughter. You are going to the grocery store for your wife. You are spending the evenings watching a movie with her. There's some mundane parts of this game, but it is all to grow tension. Because sometimes at night, people are going to come knocking because of what you've done in the past. You've changed. You've changed as a man. You go to work. You bring in the bacon. You're doing so much for your family. They appreciate it, but these guys don't. They want to have you. They want to have you on their fireplace, hung up on the wall, but you've got to stop them each time. We've evolved the combat, though.
Okay.
So it used to be just about... we've changed some things up. It used to be just throwing a low punch or a high punch to get them off the screen. We've introduced a few different angles now. So punches are thrown with the analog stick this time. So you can get all these different degrees. It's not just low or high. You can go 356 degrees. You can go 76 degrees. There's a lot of potential. And using the left stick, you can also punch the other direction. So you can punch with your left hand or your right hand. They're going to be coming at you from all angles. I can see that you're thinking, how do you move?
How do you move? It's literally the first thing.
This is the thing. Use gyro controls to tilt left and right.
Okay.
So you're going like this to move left and right, and then the sticks to punch this way. And you don't have to just push them off the screen. You've got to just deal with them. They have health bars now. You can knock them out, but you can also push them into manholes. There could be someone walking their dog. You can push them into the dog, and the dog will bite them. There's a lot of environmental hazards in this new version of Open Champion, Family Champion. You can push them into a telephone pole and electrocute them. You can punch them in, like, maybe they've got a health condition and you punch them in their heart and they have a heart attack.
Oh my god!
There's a lot of things that can happen here. But remember, this isn't the core. The core isn't the fighting. The fighting is what you're defending the core from. The core is your family. And as you go on, your daughter will come to respect you more. At the start of the game, she doesn't. Her friends think you're a loser. All of her friends at school laugh at you. But the more time you spend with her, the more you listen to her interests, the gauge of her love fills. But
does
if
her
she
voice
finds
get
out about these
progressively more
guys,
posh as the respect meter fills?
exactly. She starts off going, "Daddy, why can't I sleep?" And then at the end she goes, "Daddy, why can't I sleep?"
Is that all she says? She doesn't have any other dialogue in the game.
There's lots of dialogue. That's the only voice. That's the only
Why
voice
can't I
line. But yes, the core is about trying to get your family's respect. But if they find out about these men that come at night to try and beat you up, they're going to lose all the respect. So that's why you're fighting them off. That's the motivation. Your family can't find out. But you also want to grow. You want to grow past this. You don't want to be hiding a secret from your family. And the only way to grow past your past is to fight it head on.
Okay.
Family champion.
Family champion. Okay. This is interesting. I have a lot of questions. So I think I'm clear on the combat thing. When you're tilting gyro controls, so can you only go left and right? Are we talking is it like classic Urban Champion where it's very flat and you're sort of tilting left and right, or are you imagining more like a brawler, like plane, like a depth of, can you tilt forwards to move up the plane? How does that work?
Let's say it's 3D.
Keep giving you answers. Go on.
You can tilt in full 360 degrees, and there's two ways you can play it. You can either tilt the controller, or you can tilt yourself, holding the controller. So you move.
Brilliant.
For those just listening, I'm tilting my body right now.
Yes, yeah.
And you can you can be the one maneuvering yourself around, and then the sticks, as they naturally are your punches. Because at Nintendo, we've always seen the analog stick as a movement tool, right? You look at that thing and you think that's how you move. That's how you move the character. That's how you move the camera. But what if it were more? What if we could utilize it for different things? And this is the first in a line of our new innovative analog things.
That's
okay,
great.
Nice. And my second question was, you talked about sort of peeking behind the curtain of the kind of mundane aspects of his life, the things that are important to him, but the kind of his day-to-day life. What are we talking, like a visual novel? What are we talking about in this? What mini games? What do you do in these moments?
You'll do mini games. So there'll be things like your wife is talking about something that really interests her but doesn't interest you, and you've got to pay attention. And so we'll have mini games where it's like, imagine there's just like a circle that's slowly shrinking until you get to the middle of the circle. And if you hit it at just the right time, you'll say the right thing. So she'll say something like, I was reading this book and the main character, and if you get it just right, you'll say like, "Oh, Henry." And it's like, yes, you're paying attention. If you get it wrong, you say like, "Jeffrey." And it's like, you're not listening to me, and the respect diminishes.
The respect meter goes down. Okay. and the daughter just stays a sort of a Victorian London urchin until the end. Okay, nice. So what's the end game?
The end game is to stop these thugs from coming every night and to just have a nice family life. And you can only get there once the family respect meter is maxed out, and you've taken down all the thugs. But however, the more the respect meter goes up, the more powerful you get, and the easier it is to take down these thugs.
So it's a game that gets easier.
It's like Kid Icarus on the NES in a way. Yeah,
Right, okay.
it's a reverse difficulty curve, and it's going to make the player feel powerful.
I've got a lot to write down here. So, Sock, any questions for John?
Yeah, aesthetically, now when you pitched this, when you talked about, Daddy, why don't you ever talk about your past? Pardon my horrible accent. I was imagining this is like a AAA Last of Us kind of aesthetic. Is that is that the direction, or are we?
That's pretty much what I had in mind. Yeah. This isn't going to be retro looking. This isn't going to be stylized. We're talking real people here. We're scanning in some models. We're doing the whole works. This is going to be like the best looking Nintendo game.
Mocap. You mocap all of the characters yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, the president of Nintendo's come in to mocap.
Brilliant. John is the urban champion.
Beautiful.
Very nice. He does the voice. He does the mocap. He's the whole package.
Yeah, I'm the Victorian daughter.
Awesome.
Okay, who's developing it? If it's going to be this high quality, who's developing it for you?
I'm glad you asked. So we want to keep this fairly internal because we pitched this to third parties and they just couldn't quite wrap their heads around it.
Yeah. Wonder why.
They said the daughter's she's from the Jurassic period. Like, no, she's Victorian.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. They couldn't
we
get
thought
it.
she was a dinosaur. Our bad.
So what we're doing here, we were looking at all our studios, and we thought who would be best equipped for a AAA-looking Urban Champion reboot rooted around family. And it was clear that the answer is Nintendo Cube, the developers of Mario Party.
Of course.
And there's a few reasons we came to this. Have you played Clubhouse games?
Yes.
It's a beautiful game. You look at those boards and you think, whoa, am I looking at a video game or am I in the real world right now? And we liked that. But also, they have expertise in minigames, and there are so many minigames in the family portion. They are just the most well-suited studio for this kind of game.
Not to mention Clubhouse Games, the characters who give you the instructions in the interim, they're a family. ND Cube also have experience writing dialogue for families.
They have family values. That is one of the core responsibilities of Nintendo Cube.
Absolutely.
So they are the clear studio.
Absolutely incredible. Any final questions from yourself, Sock?
When do we start? I'm pumped. I want to get this. I want to get this thing out this holiday window. This is what the company needs.
I'm surprised you didn't set it 40 years in the future and just have it come out on Switch 2. I mean, and also, can I just are we sure we want to close a direct with Urban Champion?
I guess people talking because the chat's going to be like, "Is this Donkey Kong?" And but then when the title comes up, they're like, "Wait, Family Champion, is that a new IP?"
Brilliant.
And then these youngsters go to Twitter and they're like, "Family Champion's not a new IP. It's been around since the 80s. It's a legacy game." And so everybody wins. People get to discover the past of Nintendo, and they also get to be invigorated by something that is totally new and fresh. So I think this is something that you just cannot compete with.
Brilliant. Okay, well, if there's no more questions from you, Sock, we're running low on time, so we'll move quickly on to my final pitch. Now, my initial thought was a different titled game as well, John. I was going to go with Urbane Champion, where instead of fighting people, it's a visual novel where you use your sort of refined manners and talking skills to resolve these petty squabbles in the street. But I didn't think that would please the core Urban Champion audience, which is many, as we know.
Right.
So I went. So I went a different way. So. A couple of years ago, I wrote for Time Extension. I did a list of the sort of top 25 beat-em-ups. I played a lot of beat-em-ups, but I can't actually think of many that are four-directional, which sounds mad. Obviously, you've got the plane of movement. You can move up and down, but it tends to be you can hit left or right, and that's it. So I'm going to take Urban Champion from being purely 2D. I'm going to put it in a side-scrolling beat-em-up plane, but you can finally punch up and down in a side-scrolling beat-em-up. And this is vital to the premise because, unlike a classic side-scrolling beat-em-up where you beat people up until they lose their health, the way to defeat people in this side-scrolling beat-em-up is to knock them into obstacles or find ways to basically get them off the screen. So you're in front of the bookstore, an enemy comes you keep punching him, it's not doing much. What are you going to do? You're going to punch him through the bookstore window. Bam! He's gone. There's a manhole cover. Whack! I'm going to throw you down there. There's a phone box. Smack into the box. It crumples. So it's about clearing the screen sort of through tactical gameplay, right? You've got to use your environment to take everybody down. And as you move along, the enemies get more difficult. So you might throw somebody down a manhole, but then, a different color version of that character pulls himself up and climbs out. So you've got to find a different way to defeat him. You've got like a strategic element, multi-directional. Your stamina still depletes, but there's a move in the game. If you're getting a bit tired, you just hold down L, you just crouch, like get your breath back a little bit. Your stamina goes back up, and then you carry on fighting. So you've got like stamina, something to increase your stamina. I want it to be. So we didn't really talk much about the sort of confusing 3 different versions of box art, but there is a particular version which I think is very nice for the Verse arcade cabinet, which is like a cartoon style. And I kind of want to lean visually into that 80s art style, 80s sort of Saturday morning cartoon, that kind of thing. The music, I want it to be like sort of Run DMC, 80s style. Really lean into the kind of 80s vibe of it. And it's a sequel, and you're working through like 8 levels to basically bring down the sort of the big thug of the village, and become the urban champion. I want it to be made by Lizard Cube, Dotemu, Lizard Cube. I think they're the absolute kings of side-scrolling beat-em-ups at the moment. And I think like on an easy mode, maybe your stamina depletes when you get hit, but on hard mode it depletes as well, when you're throwing punches. So it's even more tactical thinking. And there's also, if you hold down the R button, you've got to hold that down when the police show up, so you're just whistling and they don't come and attack you. And the screen clearing special is the woman with the confetti comes on and just does like a big confetti bomb, and everybody's there like that. You can just throw them into obstacles. So that's it. That's my pitch for not Urbane Champion. This is going to be called Urban King. No, that's a bad name. That's a bad name.
Urban King.
Urban King. It's just, it's Urban Champion 2, because that's the most 80s name you can call it. It's just Urban Champion 2.
Urban Champion times 2, because you have 4 directions to work with now.
Very nice. Very nice. Maybe even the infinity symbol, just to really hit it home. But yes, so I wanted to keep the sort of essence of Urban Champion by not making it about knocking somebody out. It's about getting them to an environmental hazard, as mad as that sounds. That's my pitch.
What's your motivation?
This is very important to John. The motivation is, this is set 5 years after the first game, and the Urban Champion clearly made the street safe by going 45 rounds of knocking people out in the first game. But he hung up his t-shirt, and in that time, he's not wearing gloves. I don't know. And in that time, the city's it's gone to hell, man. And he says, you know what, one more ride. So something really cool, like one more ride, and then goes and does his thing.
Okay, that's a good motivation.
Yeah. I don't think I can't think of a side-scroller beat 'em up with much more motivation than let's go beat up people that I don't like. Sock, any questions from you?
Yeah, we recently with the launch of the Switch 2, we're naturally looking into doing a Nintendo Labo 2. Instead of cardboard, we're looking to use uranium.
Yeah.
Safe.
Yes, of course. How would you incorporate Nintendo Labo elements, bearing in mind that it's no longer cardboard but uranium, into this game? How would you integrate that?
I would provide a small piece of uranium with each physical copy, and would ask that people dispose of it safely before playing the game. It's a game within a game. Maybe, maybe you get a bit of money off if you can safely dispose of uranium. Just take it off the old nuclear power plants.
And you use the money earned to
buy DLC.
Nice.
I always pitched it. I hate DLC, but I always pitch it. But yeah, no, I think could you actually do? I do think big Labo cardboard boxing gloves would be hilarious, but yeah. But if we've got no more questions, then that's it from me. So there are 3 pitches to bring back Urban Champion. Do you like John's Family Champion, set 30 years after the original, a revenge story that sees the Urban Champion's past catch up to him, with intense trap-laden gameplay that sees you tilt to move, and with each stick mapped to a different arm? God, John, it's so hard to describe. Okay. A revenge story that sees the Urban Champion's past catch up to him, with intense environmental hazard gameplay where you tilt to move and have each arm mapped to a different stick to beat up your way through the streets and earn the respect of your family, interspersed with aspects of your life there, seen through minigames. I think that's the best description I could do for that.
It's close
Developed
enough, yeah.
by Nintendo Cube. Or do you like Socks, a gorgeous pixel art arcade style beat 'em up with customization options, upgrades and roguelike elements set in a Nintendo universe with outcasts from their past taking the role of bosses, developed by Lizard Cube? Or do you like My Lizard Cube developed strategic 3D directional side-scrolling beat-em-up with puzzle elements used to clear out the enemies on screen, returning the stamina mechanic with a hand-drawn art style and a kicking 80s soundtrack to boot? Or do you have a better idea yourself? Let us know in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe while you're there. It will help us to grow. You can find us all over on Bluesky. I'll put the links in the description. But Sock, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been. I thought you'd like Urban Champion because the punches, I thought there's no kicks and you're a sock, so you'd like a game with no kicking. But then you are a hand puppet, so maybe you've got
it's more of a biting game, really. Just
yeah. John, thank you very much for coming back.
You're welcome. I love being here, and it's always humans that we're talking to, and I wish we had more. Just clothes. I wish we had more. Trees. We never had a tree on this show.
Never had a tree.
There's a lot we can do.
I'm going to do my very best.
Right now. What are you talking about?
Hey! Oh, how I can't say anything more. What a perfect dad joke to end it on. Thank you very much for listening. But for now, that's game over. Goodbye.